Good evening, Demon fans, and welcome back to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and well, it's felt like an eternity since we were bundled out of the finals in straight sets for the second season in a row. The trade and draft period has come and gone. The 2024 fixture has been released, and in a moment I'll be having a chat with the Melbourne Football Club's National Recruitment Manager, Jason Taylor, to have a chat about our trade and draft period, our newest recruits, our recruits who have yet to debut, as well as those father-son prospects on the horizon. In the next few weeks, the Demonland podcast will briefly return to wrap up the 2023 season. We'll discuss the season, the trade and draft, the 2024 fixture, and our hopes and dreams for the next season. Keep an eye out for that one wherever you get your podcast from. But first, Jason Taylor. Our guest tonight is the Melbourne Football Club's National Recruitment Manager. He's just completed his 11th draft for the Demons. He has overseen the drafting of premiership players such as Christian Salen, James Harms, Christian Petrarca, Angus Brayshaw, Alex Neil-Bullen, Clayton Oliver, Charlie Spargo, Bailey Fritsch, Harrison Petty, Tom Sparrow, James Jordan, Luke Jackson, Cozzy Pickett, Trent Rivers and Jake Bowie. He was also at the club when we acquired a few other premiership stars such as Michael Hibberd, Jake Lever, Stephen May, Ed Langdon and Ben Brown. Based on that list, I don't need to remind listeners that I'm talking to Demon Royalty, who has had a massive hand in not only putting together a premiership list, but also a list that has been consistently competitive over the past 3 seasons and hopefully beyond. Welcome back to the Demonland podcast, Jason Taylor.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, pleasure.
Jason, during trade week, we were able to improve our draft hand by securing pick 11 from the Suns by exchanging picks 14, 27 and 35. As a result of that trade, we had picks 6 and 11, which ultimately became picks 7 and 13 after the Academy of Picks. And there was the hope that we could somehow parlay that into perhaps securing pick 1 and Harley Reid from the Eagles. Can you take us through the trade of those picks that moved us up the draft order? And was there ever a possibility that we could achieve the outcome of perhaps trading up again for pick 1 or another higher pick? And was there any serious consideration given by or negotiations with the Eagles beyond us making an offer or inquiry with them or any of the other teams at the top end of the draft?
Yeah, obviously, firstly, Tim Lamb, he was in constant contact with, all clubs and including the Eagles. But as far as the draft picks go, we were only going to end up having 2 selections in the draft. So what we wanted to do, if we couldn't sell any into the future as such, we thought it's best to bring our draft hand forward as much as we can. And for 2 reasons. If that's where it lands, well, you get a better opportunity at a better player inside your rankings, and then it also does give you the opportunity to move up. It gives you a better opportunity to move up the order. So that was the reasoning behind that. And, our offer was, as reported, was reasonably generous to the Eagles. And they gave it their due consideration, and our conversations with them were, ongoing and respectful. And in the end, they decided to hold and pick, and so that's where that ended. But it was in the mix for sure.
We took the talented outside running mid Caleb Windsor with our pick 7 in the draft. Early on, many phantom drafts had him going in the early to mid-teens. Closer to draft day, Cal Toomey had called him going to the Ds with our first pick. And there's always the argument of whether a club should draft for needs or take best available. What specifically was it about Caleb that attracted the club to him? And is our philosophy to draft for current needs over best available? And I ask that in the general sense and not specifically suggesting that Caleb was not the best available.
No, well, that's right. And I think he was a player that we targeted coming into the season before any games were played, coming out of 2022, because we thought that he's a player that we liked his talent. He only played a handful of games the year before, but he had a syndesmosis injury. But he took a little while to get going in the early part of the year, just coming back from that foot injury. But then he really got going in the Nationals, and then his finish of the year was excellent. So the reason I say that we, target him a little bit coming into the year was that we thought that we, could really do with some of that genuine speed through the middle of the ground. and he's a goal-kicking wingman as well, but he does have really, really good speed, and he's a 60 to 80 metre player, and I just think he'd add a really good mix to our other midfielders. That was the reason behind that. You talk about, I suppose, targeting specific needs in the draft. Well, we wanted to just go best available in this draft, given that, where we finished on the ladder. We just wanted to bring in talent. And we have invested in the taller players in the more recent drafts in Jacob Van Rooyen and Matty Jefferson and Jed Adams. So that also gave us the confidence to go with Caleb.
So that brings me to the next one. So reading the comments on our forum on draft night, many Demonlanders were rapt that WA defender / midfielder Daniel Curtin, who many thought might go earlier in the draft, was still available at pick 7. And this might tie into that current needs versus best available argument. And also, given Stephen May is going to be turning 32 in January, was there any strong consideration to take Curtin, given that he was available at pick 7 and we might have thought he might not have been? Adelaide obviously were very keen to snag him, trading up for picks immediately after we passed on him. So was there any thought on the night about Curtin, or it was always going to be?
We had an order. So, yeah, if for example, if Windsor was taken ahead of that, then he would have been well in that mix. So, yeah, clearly we rated Daniel. But, we on the balance of talent and potential, I reckon, need a little bit. We stuck with true to our order and selected Caleb.
With pick 13, we secured attacking half forward Colson Tolstrup, who, like Caleb, many early Phantom drafts he was slated as a late teen pick, but late in the piece, draft guru Cal Toomey did pencil him in at the D's, perhaps based off of your 8,000-kilometre round trip and roast dinner in Esperance in WA. I know you were impressed with Colton and his family. Can you give us some insight into that pick and what Colton, who incidentally will be one of Demonland's sponsored players next year, along with Stephen May, what will Colton bring to the table?
I'm very excited, by what Colton can bring to the table. As that speed forward, if you like, that medium forward with some genuine power and aerial ability in his game. And, I think within time he should have the scope to go through the midfield. He didn't have a lot of exposure throughout this year in the midfield. He played a specific role at league level at Subiaco and was very disciplined and did that role really well. What excites us a little bit about Colton is that, his exposure to the pathways pretty limited and quite raw, given, the travel involved coming from Esperance, which is some 700 kilometres from Perth. And he came in last year as a bottom major and, it was really exciting coming into that program at Subiaco and playing Colts and really hit the scoreboard early in the year. He was on track for probably 50 goals or more the way he was going. So we just put that as a bit of a combination of that's his bottom age year, in the Colts format, and then he's played league and a specific role this year. So we really like the way he went about that. We think if you combine those 2 years together, if he was playing Colts this year, I think he really would have taken the competition by storm. So he's a very good athlete and, he's got a lot of growth to come as well in that area. So he's a good speed endurance athlete. And, he's a terrific character as all the boys that were brought in. And he's going to really add to our footy club. So, we're excited by both the selections of Caleb and Colton, which is pronounced Tolstrup as a Danish background, yeah.
Good to know. We were able to select father-son prospect Kynan Brown as a Category B rookie. Kynan has been on the radar for a while. He's trained with the Ds already and has played a couple of times at Casey. He's been touted as a bit of a steal, considering we effectively didn't have to give up anything for him. Can you give our listeners a little bit of an insight on Kynan?
Yeah, well, he couldn't have had a more consistent year at both Oakley Chargers and Vic Metro. Clearly it's always, a special time to be able to bring in a father-son and, he richly deserves the opportunity that he's now gotten, Kynan, through his consistency. And, I think testament to his character is that, he's finished as an MVP for Vic Metro and, has played pretty well most games this year, and then he was unlucky not to get an invite to any of the combines, which, could have been a blow to his ego, and rightly so. But his best footy were probably the next 2 or 3 weeks after that, which I reckon shows a lot of resilience and strength of character. So, it's good to have him and give him this opportunity, that's for sure.
We had a question from our listeners about the combines. I didn't have this down on my list, but someone did ask, how much stock do you put into the combine results versus what you actually see with your scouts and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very small percentage, but I mean, I only speak on our behalf. It's always been a very small percentage. It's about intent from the athlete and how they prepare and want to perform, and how much effort and intent they put into doing a 2KO, for example. I'll give you a good example of it. Like you watch them interact with their peers throughout the combine, and even in Colton's case, like he switched runners for the agility test and when we asked him about that, it was because the runners he had were quite slippery, when he was doing his normal runners. So he had another pair that he found out had better grip, and he actually shared that with a few of his teammates as well. And he got an excellent agility result. So that shows a bit of, I suppose, thought and want to do well. So there's some real intent in that. So they're little things we look at throughout the combine, not so much the actual results. As you said yourself, Andrew, you see him play, you see that wins of speed when he's playing, and I suppose it's just reaffirms it.
During the trade period, we bought over 3 players from rival clubs: Jack Billings from the Saints, Shane McAdam from the Crows, Tom Fullerton from the Lions. Can you give us a rundown on those trades and what specifically it was about each of those players that made them targets for the D's? And do you expect immediate impact in the form of, from each or any of them potentially playing round one?
Well, obviously with Brody, and Tim Lamb did a fantastic job in this space, and with Brody moving on, we need to fulfil that ruck spot. And so Tom Fullerton, who showed some promise at AFL level and really played some seriously good football at VFL level, came in, and he'll be able to fill that role. And then Shane McAdam was a target of Lammy. We just think, he plays with good aggression. He's got an aerial ground game. He's just going to give us some real potency. Centre forward. He's a goal kicker. He's had some injuries in the past, but when he's had continuity, he's an excellent player at AFL level, so really excited by that. And Jack Billings, we've lost some players through moving on to other clubs in JJ and Harms, and Jack was, I think was looking for another opportunity out of the Saints, and we just thought he'd be a good fit. We liked him as a junior. He's had a couple of injury interrupted years, but we think that, he's fit now, and we can, get him back to somewhere where his best footy was, which is, at AFL level was very good. We think he can play a role, whether that be mid, forward, we're not sure. But he was here training today, as well, all those boys. And along with Marty Hoare as well, who we're welcoming back into the fold, who was unlucky originally, really, when list sizes came down. But, he's been exceptional at VFL level since he left here, and, it's great for him to get another chance as well.
Well, as you mentioned, we passed on our last picks in both the draft and pre-season rookie draft, and as you mentioned today, it was announced that we've thrown former Demon Marty Hoare a lifeline when the pre-season supplemental selection period opened today. Are there any other vacant spots on the list remaining? And if so, have we invited anyone else to train during the pre-season like we have in previous seasons?
Yeah, no, that's it. We're finished now, and we're not in a position to have anyone train with us. But yeah.
All right, revisiting last year's draft class, none of them made a debut for the D's in 2023, which is understandable given the current list profile and the fact that some of them are key position players who historically take longer to develop. And we are in a position where we have the luxury to allow these kids to develop and hone their craft at Casey and not rush them into the senior side. How are forward Matt Jefferson, defender Jed Adams, ruckman Will Varell, and utility Oliver Seston developing? And are you expecting any of them to take the next step in the coming season?
Yeah, no, they obviously watched training today, their first session for the year, and they've all come back, looking bigger and stronger and fitter, which is what you want to see. And all those boys showed snippets at different stages last year. And they, as you quite rightly pointed out, Andrew, as key position players, they take a little bit longer to develop. So there's an expectation to build the habits really quickly and strongly. And but there's also, you've got to temper expectation that they do take their time. Jed, for example, came in with a shoulder, so he really this will be his first full pre-season. So it'll be. I'm looking forward to seeing how he looks come, March next year and how he's looking. But he's certainly come back pretty good, and he's looking better in the body, and that goes for both Matty and Will as well, and Ollie for that matter. Ollie, he's that type of athlete that is really skillful, powerful athlete, but he needs to just continue to build his endurance base. So each pre-season is a positive step for those guys, and so they're all tracking in the right direction.
A couple of other recent draftees also haven't debuted yet, but have showed significant promise at Casey, and by all reports, Daniel Howes has been on the cusp of a call-up in the past 2 seasons, only for injury to stall his chance to debut. Andy Menez-Wakefield has also impressed many of our Casey watchers who feel that he isn't too far off either. How are those two travelling, and can you see either of those two getting a gig at some point next season?
Yeah, Blake Howes. Yeah, Howes, been unlucky, really. He's got poor timing on injuries, where he wasn't far off in both his debut year and last year. And, but he's come back strong, and he's put on a little bit of size. He's a lightly framed athlete, but he's put on a little bit of size. So I know the coaches are excited about Housey and what he can bring, and I'm sure if he has a good pre-season and remains injury-free, that he'll debut before not too long. And Andy, Andy's came back as well. All these guys have had really good 2-3 week periods at VFL level, and it's just about building consistency. So he's certainly shown that he can, hit the scoreboard at VFL level, and we're sure that he can do that at AFL level once given an opportunity. So again, he's just got to learn to build the right habits all the time, and keep building his game like that. But yeah, they're both showing promise, those boys.
2023 saw us unearth another Jason Taylor gem in round one. No one had Judd McVie going from rookie to Casey Premiership player to permanent fixture in one of the best defences in the league on their 2023 bingo cards. You must be wrapped with his rapid rise.
Yeah, no, really pleased. And then when you see him walk in the door today, you can see someone that's gone away again and hasn't rested on his laurels. So that's a real positive and shows, the character of Judd. We always really, speak of even Colton, coming from Geraldine, he wasn't always, exposed to the elite programs, if you like, coming through until he's probably his last year. But we always like what we saw in Judd from a talent perspective, and his athletic profile was strong. So we knew if we could bring that together, and he, with his natural maturation, which he's probably surprised how quickly he's come on. But we certainly rated his football ability, but it is pleasing, and a real credit to him from the year he had last year. Like his pre-season games, you thought, wow, he's going in the right direction here, but the roles he was able to play and fulfil at AFL level all year at a consistent level was hats off to him.
Of our current crop of players yet to debut, can you predict another Judd McVie being discovered this year?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Well, hopefully they all progress, and that's the facts. Look, the key position players will take longer. That's just how it is. And I think with Jacob Van Rooyen, he's probably exceeded expectation for a young key position player, and that's not. If you look through history, he's not always a guide. Even the greats of the game have taken their time to get going. Look, I think the two boys that we brought in through the national draft this year will certainly have an impact in a positive way.
Kalani White has been on our radars for a long time. We follow Dad Jeff's posts on social media and have witnessed his talent and his ever-growing height. And like his dad, he's a demon through and through. I know you guys are keeping an eye on him. How's he progressing through his junior development in your eyes? And if he's up to it, when are we likely to see him in the red and blue?
Yeah, well, like watching him at the 16s, and as you said, we're in constant contact with the family, and they're coming down next Friday, I think. Not this Friday, it might be this Friday. I'm losing track of dates, but it's this Friday, I think. So we just, meet with the family and map out a bit of a program for him. But his 16 carnival is, very good. He's got the height and athleticism, and his football, he's working on it. He got some exposure to different positions, and played some good footy back and some good footy forward, some good footy in the ruck. So there's a lot to like and a lot to work with Kalani. He's not this year. He's the following year. Sorry, so if you like, not next year's draft, the one after, so 25. We've got Noah Ruse on that front coming through. He's at Oakley Chargers, Caulfield Grammar. Had some exposure as that kind of power forward, a bit of mid, but also played back in some of the later games of the year. And he's progressing along nicely, so he'll have a train with us. So there are a couple in the next 2 years that we're father-sons that we're looking at.
Well, you just answered. That was my next question about Noah Ruse, so we'll move on. Are there any other father-son prospects on the horizon as well?
And the following year, Marley Davey, who's going to relocate and go to Xavier College. So we'll start to track him a bit harder. And Todd Patterson does a terrific job in that academy space for us. So, so they're the main three at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, Jason, thank you for your time today. It's really insightful every time we speak with you. Best of luck with this year's crop, and I look forward to chatting with you this time next year, hopefully celebrating another flag. Thanks, Jason.
That'd be nice, Andrew. Good on you, mate. Cheers.
That was the Melbourne Football Club's National Recruitment Manager, Jason Taylor. The Demonland podcast will return briefly in a few weeks to finally wrap up the 2023 season. We'll also discuss the wrap-up of our trade and draft period and cast our eye onto the 2024 season. See you in a few weeks. Go Demons.
Relegers.
Come on, Demons. Come on, Demons. Come on, Demons. Come on, Demons. I've got this feeling